An 18-year-old just made Casemiro look lost in midfield. And now Arsenal have already opened talks to sign him, before Liverpool, before Real Madrid, before anyone else gets the chance. The player is Ayyoub Bouaddi. And what happened on Saturday against Brazil is the reason 6 of Europe's biggest clubs are suddenly paying very close attention to a teenager most casual fans had never heard of 2 weeks ago. Here is what actually happened. Morocco drew 1-1 with Brazil at the World Cup. Bouaddi played as the conductor in Morocco's midfield, and for 90 minutes he had Casemiro, a player with 5 Champions League titles and a reputation as one of the best defensive midfielders of his generation, chasing the game instead of controlling it. Bouaddi completed 91% of his passes. In the final third, he was perfect, 100%. 6 recoveries, 5 interceptions, 9 duels won. At 87 minutes, with the result still in the balance, he had the composure to acknowledge a teammate's pass with applause before gliding forward with the ball, like the moment belonged to him. That is not a flash in the pan. According to Football Insider, sources confirm that Arsenal have already opened preliminary talks with Lille over signing Bouaddi this summer, at a price of around £50 million. Not interested, not monitoring. Talks already underway. Arsenal have moved first, and that creates an immediate problem for Liverpool, because Liverpool are also on the list. PSG, Manchester United, Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, every one of these clubs has been credited with interest in Bouaddi following his performance against Brazil. But interest and preliminary talks are not the same thing. Arsenal have a head start. And in a market this competitive, a head start of even a few weeks can be the difference between signing a player and watching a rival sign him. Here is why this matters so much for Liverpool specifically. Their attacking situation is already a mess this summer. Salah gone on a free, Gakpo heading to Tottenham, Barcola blocked behind a wall PSG built themselves. But midfield is a different conversation. Liverpool's midfield has aged together. The squad needs the kind of long-term reset that a player like Bouaddi represents. Not a short-term patch, but a generational piece signed at 18 who could anchor the middle of the pitch for the next decade. If Arsenal get there first, Liverpool do not just lose a transfer target. They lose a chance to solve a problem that will only get more expensive the longer it goes unaddressed. Now, here is where it gets complicated for everyone chasing him, including Arsenal. Lille are not under pressure to sell. Bouaddi signed a contract extension in December that runs until 2029. That timing was not an accident. Lille saw what was coming. A breakout World Cup, a bidding war, exactly the situation unfolding right now, and they locked him down before his value could spike. His market value before the World Cup sat around 50 million euros. After 90 minutes against Brazil that made Casemiro look like a passenger, that number is moving in one direction. Up, which means the £50 million Arsenal opened talks it may not be the number Lille actually accept. Lille have leverage. They have time. They have a contract that runs 3 more years. And they have a generational talent who just proved on the biggest stage in football that the hype is not hype. It is simply accurate. Consider what Lille's recent history tells us here. This is a club that has built an entire business model around developing players exactly like this and selling them at the peak of demand. They did it with players who moved on to become full internationals and Champions League regulars. Lille's recruitment and academy staff are not going to panic because 6 clubs are circling. If anything, that level of competition is exactly the scenario their contract extension was designed for. Every additional name on that list of interested clubs is leverage Lille did not have to create themselves. Bouaddi created it on the pitch, and Lille simply have to sit back and let the market do the work. For Bouaddi himself, the situation is almost serene by comparison. He is 18 years old, born in Senlis, France, switched his international allegiance to Morocco in May, a decision that put him in one of the World Cup's most compelling stories. And when asked directly about the transfer interest after the Brazil game, his response was calm. He said he's happy clubs are interested, but for now he is only focused on the World Cup with Morocco. That is the response of someone who understands his leverage is only going up the longer this tournament continues. Every strong performance increases his price, every club watching gets more convinced, and Lille, sitting on a contract through 2029, get to wait for the best offer rather than the first one. So here's where this leaves Arsenal and Liverpool. Arsenal have the early move. Preliminary talks, a number on the table, momentum. But Mikel Arteta's side already have one of the most contested attacking pursuits in Europe running in parallel, chasing the same Bradley Barcola that Liverpool want. If Arsenal commit resources to both Bouaddi and Barcola simultaneously, the financial logic gets stretched fast, even for a club operating with Champions League final revenue behind them. There is also a tactical dimension worth considering for Arsenal specifically. Arteta has built his midfield around control and progression, exactly the qualities Bouaddi showed against Brazil. A player who can both win the ball back and immediately turn defense into attack is not just a depth signing for a squad like Arsenal's. It is a potential long-term successor to the players, currently anchoring that midfield, signed at an age where the transition can happen gradually rather than under pressure. That long-term thinking is part of why Arsenal moved as early as they did. Waiting risks not just the price going up, but the player choosing a different long-term project entirely. Liverpool, meanwhile, are not out of this. Andoni Iraola's priority list is currently dominated by attacking reinforcements. But if his recruitment team identifies Bouaddi as a midfield solution that solves a problem before it becomes urgent, Liverpool have the financial capacity, particularly with the Gakpo sale generating £60 million, to make a serious move. The question is whether they move now, while Arsenal are still in preliminary stages, or wait until after the World Cup, when Bouaddi's price could be considerably higher and Arsenal's talks could already be advanced. There's also a financial nuance that gets lost in the noise around big transfer numbers. £50 million for an 18-year-old sounds enormous in isolation, but compare it to what Liverpool are discussing for Barcola. Over £100 million for a player PSG kept on the bench for 2 Champions League finals, and Bouaddi suddenly looks like extraordinary value, even at a premium above the current asking price. A midfielder who can play at this level for the next 10 to 12 years, signed before his prime rather than during it, is the kind of investment that ages well regardless of what happens in the next transfer window. Clubs that get this right do not just solve next season's problem, they solve problems that have not been identified yet. And there's a version of this story that connects directly back to what we discussed with the Alisson situation. Liverpool's recruitment strategy this summer has, so far, been reactive, responding to players leaving, prices being set by other clubs, situations forced by outside circumstances. Bouaddi represents something different. This is a chance for Liverpool to be proactive, to identify a generational talent before the price reflects what everyone now knows, and to make a decision based on what their own scouts have seen rather than reacting to what PSG or Tottenham do next. The clubs that consistently win transfer windows are not always the ones who spend the most. They are the ones who move on conviction before the conviction becomes consensus. Right now, Arsenal have shown that conviction. The question is whether Liverpool still can. There's a broader pattern here worth noticing. 6 different elite clubs are circling an 18-year-old who, before this World Cup, had 0 goals and 1 assist in League One this season. The interest is not about output. It is about what scouts have seen in training, in build-up play, in the way he reads the game, and what the entire football world just saw against Brazil confirmed it. This is exactly the kind of player Liverpool's own academy produces when it works. Steven Gerrard was that kind of generational midfielder, developed rather than bought. The difference is, Bouaddi already belongs to someone else, and that someone else has no reason to let him go cheap. Arsenal moved first. Lille are not desperate. And Bouaddi has every incentive to let this World Cup run its course before anyone's number means anything. I've left the key numbers in the description. Bouaddi's World Cup stats, his contract situation, and the valuations being reported by each side. Take a look and tell me who you think wins this race. This situation is evolving fast, and Bouaddi's next World Cup performance could change every number in this story.